is the PL-89 thought calendar, or Mercury thought calendar. Today is Monday, July 21st, 2025, and it is the 25th day of Tammuz, 5785, and the Parsha, it's a double Parsha this week, Parshat Matot-Masei, and this is a calendar that I've been working on for some time. It's going to turn 13 years old. It's going to have a bar mitzvah in Elul. Started on it in around late August or early September time of 2012. And it's a calendar that's based on a verse in Leviticus. Interestingly enough, it's Leviticus chapter 25, verse 20, and now we're in the year 2025. So I always found it fascinating that the year that has the same digits as the verse that it came from is the year that is starting to be presented daily. That aside, it's a lunar and solar calendar, and the Julian calendar, and it's based on planet Mercury. And it's based on the verse in Leviticus. It goes by a sequence of 8 plus 9. So the first box would be number 8, and the second box would be 17, because 8 plus 9 is 17. The third box would be 25, because 17 plus 8 is 25, and then 34 goes 8 plus 9 plus 8 plus 9 plus 8 plus 9. And that's based on a verse in the sabbatical year that talks about not sowing or working the field in the sabbatical year. And for those who were concerned about not having enough food, there's a promise made in the scripture that God would provide for the 6th, the 7th, and the 8th year. And then it says, after the sabbatical year, you'll still be eating from the old crop in the 8th, and start planting in the 8th, but until the 9th. And then it just says 8 and 9. And for some reason, that seemed fascinating to me, that it focused on 8 and 9 there. And that idea developed the whole calendar just from those few words in that verse. The whole calendar came from that. It's a calendar that really has to do with that subject, because that Parsha of Bahar mentions the word redemption, or a variant of that word, meaning Goel or Geulah or Go'alo, redemption, more than any other parsha in the Torah. I counted 19 times. It might be more, and I've seen that word in Bechukotai also. So it could be even more than 19 times, but certainly in Bahar it's more than any other parsha. And so it's interesting that part of the reason why the Jewish people, or the Hebrew people, went into exile is that they weren't keeping the sabbatical. So that could be one reason why, and that could have to do with redemption as well. You have a lot of words of redeeming the land, a redeemer who came to redeem his brother's land, or something like that. So all those words of redemption, I put 2 and 2 together and made 22, and I'm just kidding, made 4, and or also 22, I guess, 2 ways of seeing it. And I thought that redemption has to do with the Shemitah, since the most times it says redemption is in the Shemitah year, Parsha. So on this calendar, there's many, many different things, and I've been discovering new things over the years about these sequences that point to different realities in the Torah and in Jewish law. And I'm trying to find more things that would apply to different areas of life, not just in Torah itself, but maybe for areas of finance, or many other things, science, mathematics, and the find for today is the way it's constructed is that there's these 8-day weeks, because there's 8 boxes, and there are 10 rows. There's 8 columns and 10 rows. That makes 80 boxes. And as I mentioned earlier, it's 80. The connection to 80 and redemption is that Moses, of blessed memory, our Moshe Rabbeinu, our teacher Moses, was 80 years old, as the verse says in Exodus. I think don't want to misquote it. So, but it says he was 80 years old when he stood before Pharaoh, which is when the redemption story started, the Exodus story. Him and Aaron. Aaron was 83 and Moses was 80. So 80, the first Redeemer, Moses, and we're talking about Redeemer, right, from Bahar. And so Moses was 80 years old, but if you remember, I mentioned it was Mercury calendar. And the chemical element, mercury, has an atomic number of 80 as well. So if you have a time sequence, this time is 80 and then plus 10 is 90. So 80 and 90, so that's like also 89. But it says that when he was a baby, he was hid for 3 months. The verse says in Exodus chapter 2 that his mother hid him for 3 months, which is this period of time. So we see 3 ways that the redemption is connected to these numbers. Also, the English word Exodus is equal to 88 in English gematria. But so the mathematical find for today is that, okay, these 8-day weeks, and then there's these 10 rows. And so if you look at, like, after these 10 rows, you have a 10-day twilight period, which is 10 days between each season. Yeah, this is a season. This whole thing is, you can call it a mercurial year, or you can call it a season. Now, if you look at the columns, right now, today is July 21st, and it's also the 25th day of Tammuz. So it's a calendar that holds both those dates together. It's just depending on, like, this section that would apply for July also applies for Tammuz. And so now we're in July Tammuz. It's the same month. But just depending on what the actual numbers are, there'll be a few boxes over, depending, like right now in this month, it's a +4. Like 21 plus 4 is 25. Like July 21st plus 4 is Tammuz 25. Okay? So that puts us at T1 over here, and it's a +4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and T5. Now, what's interesting, and I don't know why this is, but one of the reasons, there's something in a study in Torah called Sod HaIbur. Sod HaIbur is the secret of intercalations. It's the secret of when to make a leap year and why. And I think, this is my own idea, and on a greater level, how many leap years there are altogether in this whole history, or from the time of creation until the coming of Messiah. So that's one of the purposes of this calendar, is to decode, as it were, the Sod HaIbur. The secret, the Sod HaIbur, actually the word Sod HaIbur has a numerical value of 363. If you use the regular Hebrew gematria, Sod is 70, and HaIbur, I don't remember exactly right now, but I did the calculation, put in the calculator. Sod HaIbur is 363. And the word Hamashiach, I think you have to spell Ibor with the whole, you have to spell it without a Vav, I think with a Vav it's going to be 3, or without a Yud. With a Yud it's 373. If you spell Ibor, Ayin, Beis, Vav, Resh, like Ibor, with you can do it without a Yud. It's going to be 363, with Yud 373, right? So is equal to Hamashiach, the Messiah. So that's interesting. So I think going back to Bahar, and seeing the words of redemption, Shemitah year, and then Sod HaIbur, and it all kind of circles around time, and the time of exile, the time of redemption. And so, getting back to the point, because there were leap years, it makes the certain days come out on certain numbers. Obviously, right? Because if it changes the days, like what day of the week and what number day, that kind of thing. Like if 2022 or Tafshin Pei Beis was a leap year, and then 23 and Pei Gimel was not, but 24 Pei Dalet was a special leap year. It was a leap year also, but it was an unusual kind of leap year. It was a leap year that doesn't come in its normal time. It's kind of like the leap year that was in 2016, Tuf Shin Ayin Vav, which was like a leap year that comes not 2 years after a regular year, a Shana Pshuta regular year, but 2 years, but just 1 year after. So it's usually like a Shana Pshuta, and then there's what I call a Shana Mukdemet, early year, means everything's very early, and then a leap year. It was leap year, Shana Pshuta, regular year, Shana Mukdemet, an early year, and then a leap year. That's how usually the cycle of leap years go. It's like every 3 years. But in this case, last year was a special leap year. And I want to find out why. Obviously, there's a reason why it was a special leap year, because that made everything, the whole continuum, look differently, and it shapes the year differently. We're going to have different readings, and because we have different readings, we're going to have different thinkings if you pay attention to the reading on what day, and that all makes a difference. It shifts the collective consciousness, and because of that, it changes everything. But there's a secret behind that. So in my understanding, that's the Sod HaIbur, the reason. The secret behind the intercalations, even though it's probably much more than that. But that's one practical takeaway that I get from that and that I'm pursuing. But anyway, if you look at all of these columns, these are 8 columns, and we're in the 10-day twilight period. So today's T1, T2, T3. So 21st would be T1, then the 25th would be T5. 26th and up until however long the month is, if it's 29 days or 30 days. In the case of Tammuz is only 29 days, so we'll go to Av after 29 days. So there's only T1 through 9, and when it comes to July, there's 31 days, so it can go up until even to 11 days, even though it's called a 10-day twilight period. That if it's an 11 day, they get a freebie. That 11th day is just considered part of the 10th day. So anyway, I noticed that in each of these columns you can find numbers here, and I mean, if you want to see it, or if anyone wants a copy of it, just email me, contact me here on Facebook. I'd be happy to email you a copy of this or scan it or something, and email it to you. But you can see that in this this column here, you add any of the digits up. And you can't get 21. You can't get 21. Very simply, because they're all even numbers. Right? This column is 8, 36, 24, 12, 40, 28, 16, 4. So let's say you added 16 and 4, you get 20. That's about as close as you can get. Or you could do, that's about it, I think. 32, 20. So you can never get 21. Interestingly enough, that's 21, and today is the 21st, right? But today's also the 25th. It's the 25th day of Tammuz. And if you go to column 5 in the T5, and you go up this whole column, you'll find that you can get it. You can also not get a 25. Simple reason. They're all even numbers. You can get 26. You can get 14 and 10. You can get 24 and you can get 26. But you can't get 25. Because this whole column is even numbers. But every other column, T2, T3, T4, T6, T7, T8, you can get that number. And you could just say it's a simple matter of arithmetic. The way the numbers are aligned, and that's how it happened. But that arithmetic affects the calendar in like what I was explaining before, the Sod HaIbur. Okay, let's say 20. Tomorrow's gonna be 22, right? Tomorrow's gonna be July 22nd, so that would be T2. So here you get 20. Look at it, 17 and 5. That's 22. Okay, T3. I think you can take my word for it, but not I can say, like I said. But T3. You have you can add them together. You can get it. T3. I want to get 23. How do I get 23? Look, 17 and 5 and 1. 23. Very nice. Right? I think that's like the only way you can get it. Okay, you have to combine 3 of them to get 23. But 24, very simple. 24, you can have, 14 and 10. See, that makes 24. 25, like we said, you can't get it. 26. 26, you can get it. Yep, 19 and 7. Sure, that's 26. And then 27, perfect. 27, you actually have that number right here. You actually have 27 itself. Okay? And 28, you have 28. So any one of these columns, you can get that day. But for 21 and 25, you cannot get that day because they're all even numbers. Now, if I was just telling you that abstract fact, then okay, you'd say, great, you know how to count. Congratulations, But there's something that's supposed to come from that, and that's what I'm trying to mine out. And I found an interpretation of that in our years. In 2021, if you remember, Purim was on a Friday. And in 2025, Purim was also on a Friday. And if you look at the calendar, Tu B'Av was on a Friday in 2021 and also this year, 2025. So some of those dates were the same as it was 4 years ago. I don't think it goes in that exact pattern. It doesn't go every 4 years like that. But it happens to be that in 2021 and 25 it was like that. But I don't think in 2017 it wasn't the same. 2017, Purim was not on a... If it was formulaic, like every 4 years, but in 2017, I remember right now, 2017, Purim was on a Sunday. Yeah, it was on a Sunday. Pretty sure. Yeah. If I'm making a mistake, then please don't zap me. But I think it was on a Sunday, yeah. So you would think if it's like, if it goes every 4 years, no, it doesn't go every 4 years. It's 21 and 25. So in our case, our calendar, it went 21 and 25. But what's the ramification why both Purim and Tu B'Av were on the same day? Of course, Lag BaOmer was the same day as well, because Lag BaOmer is always on the same day of the week that Purim is. So what is the connection between this year and 21? If we can all think where we were, and can we see some correlation between this year and 2021? I can definitely see a correlation within my personal world, but I'm looking for consensus. I'm not looking about my own experience. I'm looking about how many people can verify, you know what, in 2021, we didn't go to these people's houses for so many years, we weren't invited to these people for so many years, and we went there for Purim. And you know what? We were invited to there on 2025 also, but not in the other year. That's what I'm looking for. Not me, everybody. That's what I'm looking for. Consensus. Collective, objective. But in my case, I started working on the 72 names. I had no idea what the 72 names were. Until I heard about it here. It's a Kabbalistic creation, a Kabbalistic formation based on verses of the Exodus in the splitting of the sea, where one verse in Hebrew is, each verse has exactly 72 letters, which is an interesting phenomenon in its own right. But one verse is written forwards, the middle verse is written in reverse, and the third is written forwards, and each 3 letters of each verse are forming an acrostic, and that 3-letter formation forms a word. And Kabbalists over the centuries have studied this mystical name that comes from, they attribute it to properties or aspects of God called the 72-letter name, or 72 names. It's really 216 letters because it's 72 times 3, but each 3-letter forms a word, so it's 72 names. But some people call it the 72-letter name because each verse is 72 letters. So anyway, something very, I'll say, traumatic happened to me in the year of Corona. It wasn't Corona itself, but it was something. After that very traumatic event, about a month afterwards, about 10 days afterwards, I found $150 just on the ground, which is really interesting, and that's not usual. And then after that, in the beginning of 2021, my mind opened up into these 72-letter name, and to study it, to understand it. And that was in January of 2021, and it is only this year that it all came together in this calendar in it's really 5785, but 5785 started at the end of 24, but basically in the beginning of 5785, which was January, is when if you notice if anyone who studies the 72-letter name, you'll realize that it's formed exactly like this. And 12 years ago, I had zero idea of anything about that. But the 72-letter name is exactly 8 columns, but in the case of 72, it's going to be, of course, 9. 8 times 9 is 72. So it's 8 columns and 9 rows. And if anyone wanted to put, or anyone wants to put the 72-letter name in this calendar, they could do it exactly the way it's made right now, except it would fill up to 72, and then you'd have an extra week left over, 80. But in this case, there's even another that's invisible over here. So that's an interesting thing, that in 2021, I started to understand, or to just start to work with the 72-letter name. And then in 2025, now is when it started being, and it's not like I made it, just kind of happened that way, that it formed together with this calendar and into a cohesive, unified thought structure, which basically unifies each name with a day. And when the name is unified with a day, then it's basically unifying information with time. That's to form a structure. And that is the connection between 21, this is the T1, this column, and 25. I mean, that's one that I can see. But I'd like to hear about other people, maybe, what they might, have seen, what was interesting about 21, the year, and 25, Tafshin Pei Aleph, Tafshin Pei Hey, or anything else, any other thing that, when you were 21 years old, you went to college, and 25 you graduated. I don't know, something like that. But that's basically the thought for today.